going on, everybody? It's your favorite host, A Millie, and I'm back with another episode of the Sip and Sip broadcast. But this month, in the month of June, we are celebrating Juneteenth, but it's also Black Music Month. And right here for you today, I have Alvin Garrett. He is a Grammy nominated singer and songwriter from the great state of Alabama, from Tuscaloosa, resides in Birmingham. So, hey, Alvin, welcome to the show.
What's up, hey Millie? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I just want to thank you for just taking the time out of your busy schedule to just come and chat with your girl, little old me, tonight for this special edition of the Sip and Sip.
Listen, I'm just so happy to sip and sit with you. Let's get it popping.
Let's get it popping, because when we jumped on, I said we are actually from the same home state, and I feel, when you're from Alabama, having that southern charm, that southern hospitality, I just knew this was going to be a good interview.
Yeah, it's in the water, it's in the soil. You can't get it anywhere else like you get it in the deep red south of Alabama. So
And
it's
that's
good to
it.
meet
It's so great to meet you. I'm so honored. So, Alvin, as we talk about Black Music Month, I want to start on your journey
you.
in
Okay.
music. So, tell me, how did your journey begin in music?
Like many R&B soul singers throughout the history of R&B music, it started in the church for me. I
Mm,
am, I am a full-blooded, full-bred preacher's kid. Yes, I am. My dad's a preacher and a coal miner, by the way.
mhm,
So just got into music from just the church roots. I started off playing bass at 11 years old, and that was my first love, my first instrument, bass guitar. Played that growing up. Played with a lot of choirs, and pretty much thought that's what I was going to be for the rest of my
mhm,
life as a bass player. But also, I had a poetic spirit and a
mhm,
songwriter spirit in me that really sort of came out around the 2000s, is where I really
mhm,
found a love for songwriting. And that's when I started to transition into writing and production. And then around 2010, my dad was like, "Hey, man, have you ever heard yourself? Really?" So I'm doing all these demos, trying to get songs placed for other artists by this time. But then he's listening to him say, "You need to listen to yourself." And
mhm.
that was the beginning of my journey as an artist that has led me to this point right now as an acclaimed musician, songwriter, producer, and now artist. So
Mhm.
that's my journey in the short run.
Mhm. So I love when you say your journey started in the church, and you look at so many great women like Aretha Franklin, like
Mhm.
Fantasia, Jennifer Hudson. They all started from the church with the foundation. I can imagine you being a preacher's kid and you playing while your daddy is during on Sunday morning doing his sermon. What was it like being a preacher's kid growing up, especially in the deep south? What was it like growing up for you?
Yeah, well, I'll say my experience was different because my dad wasn't he was a non-denominational preacher,
Mm,
so it wasn't very churchy church.
mhm,
It was denominational. He was a faith teacher, wasn't like a lot of the Baptists and a lot of the denominations. So he was all about love and faith, and so honestly, it wasn't this strict.
mhm,
Don't you go do the secular music. No, he loved all kind of music as long as it was clean. And so you're talking about soul music, R&B, jazz. He was a big jazz lover. So for
mm,
me, I was exposed to just clean, wholesome music, right?
mhm,
Growing up. And
mhm.
I was able to listen to that. You had to sneak and listen to the other
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
You had to sneak and get your little something
Gotta sneak,
inside.
what mom and daddy can't hear you. Sometimes you got to go in the bathroom, basement. You be in there a little while in the bathroom, but you
Yeah.
listening to music you weren't supposed to listen to. I've been down that road before.
There you go. There you go. But for the most part, it wasn't very strict. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
And my parents were very supportive of seeing me branch out and do R&B, soul music, and jazz and other genres as I grew older. But because they always saw a hint of wholesomeness in
mhm.
everything that I've done, and that is tied into the DNA of who I am as a musician, artist, and a writer.
Mhm. I love hearing that. I want to ask you, what do you think has been one of your most amazing moments on your journey as an artist? I know you started off really as a musician, but now switching gears to being an artist. What has been one of your most memorable moments thus far?
That is very, very interesting. Um, as an artist, I've had a lot of great moments, but I'll say one of the most heart touching moments and sort of surreal moments was in Jackson, Mississippi in 2019, close around the July 4th holiday,
Mhm.
where a gentleman ran out the stands and caught me before after I finished the performance. He jumped the fence and was running towards
Wow.
me. And he was like, Alvin, Alvin, I gotta meet you. You gotta meet. He came up to me. He said, "You saved my life. You saved my life." And at first I'm just kind of
Mhm.
caught off guard. And he said, "You saved my life." He said, "I had the gun cocked, ready to end it all." And he said, "And your song came on the radio. Say, if you won't go with me, if you don't stand with me, I'll go on by myself." He said, "You saved my life." And
Mm.
it took a second for it to settle in what he
Mhm.
was really saying.
Mhm.
And I sat in the car that moment. I cried, to be honest with you. I was flooded with emotions
Mhm.
because I thought about how difficult it had been to
Mhm.
promote my music as an independent artist, and
Mhm.
all of my trials and tribulations and rejections and everything I went through. And that's in spite of any of the awards. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm. Yes.
Nothing made my journey make more sense than that moment. That my
Mm.
music saved a life, that my song came on the radio just in the nick of time. And this
Mm.
gentleman and I are still friends to this day. He follows me, he reaches out, he encourages me. He's like, "Fly high, brother." And to be honest, that's been the most um, touching moment of my music career
Mm.
because it showed me my purpose is that,
Mm.
that my voice, my music saves lives.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's deeper than just the
Mhm.
entertainment of it all or the business of it all.
Mm.
It gave me a sense of purpose
Mm.
that carried me through a lot of my own trials throughout my journey.
Mm. I love how you explain your trials and tribulations. And it seems like that was a pivotal moment in your whole career. You never know what somebody is going through. And as an artist, we look at so many different artists that are singers or rappers, and it's just that one song that kind of saves them from, ending it all. How has your life changed from that moment in 2019 up until 2023? How has that, I guess, forced you and thrust you more into your music, knowing that this my music saved a person's life?
Well, it's funny you ask. Shortly thereafter, around the fall of 2019, I sort of hit, creative depression. Didn't
Mhm.
realize it at the time, where
Mhm.
I felt I had sort of reached my peak and
Mhm.
felt that there was no more I could do. Was promoting music, couldn't quite get over that hump per se, to where I felt like I was getting back what I felt I deserved as an artist. Like I started asking myself, how much better can I be?
Mhm.
When
Mhm. Mhm.
you're the one hustling and doing all of the pushing and pushing and pushing, and I just sort of not say gave up, but got as close to that point as someone like myself. I'm a very hopeful, very self-motivated person. So to me, I was in a depressed state where I
Mhm.
just couldn't see what was next. And where I would just lay in bed during the day instead of dreaming about music. I stopped dreaming about it. And
Mm.
even going into 2020, I started doing budgets and planning my life without music. And
Mm.
that was depression for me. You know what I'm saying? Is to say, well, I'm intelligent enough, I'm smart enough to raise a family without music. And then the pandemic came.
Mm. Yes.
And in my own personal way, it freed me.
Mm.
Um, it was like, okay, I don't have to do anything but live. And that's when I found my voice. That's when I found freedom in music again. It was because I was making music because I loved it
Mhm.
again. It was an expression during the
Mhm.
pandemic. And I wrote some of my greatest music starting that year. My voice sounded different to me. because I wasn't doing it to sell it. I wasn't concerned about what people thought anymore. I
Mhm,
wasn't trying to make a song to go on tour or to get on the radio. I
mhm,
was just singing about what I was feeling. And
mhm,
that's where I feel like I found artistic freedom and I
mhm,
found that love again.
mhm, mhm,
But I hit a low point even after discovering what I discovered
mhm,
in terms of my purpose. I still wanted to quote unquote make it, right?
mhm, mhm,
Making it is different for everybody else. And I felt
mhm,
I had made it,
mhm,
but now I have made it. You know what I mean?
mhm.
I made it to the place
Yes.
where I listen to my music and love it. And
Mhm,
I'm my biggest fan,
mhm.
right?
Yes, yes.
I'm
Because you will always be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, and your biggest critic, and I was
Yes.
certainly my biggest critic,
Mhm,
but now I believe I'm one of my biggest
mhm,
fans. Like I actually listen to my music
mhm,
and love the sound of my voice, and that's a special. That was a special triumph for me because
mhm,
I didn't always love the sound of my voice. I knew I could make a song to sound great enough for somebody else.
mhm,
I
mhm,
could make you sound great, but
mhm,
I didn't hear myself
mhm,
with the same level of greatness as I heard artists I
mhm,
produce. And so I
mhm,
was always comparing myself to many of the writers and artists that I've written for.
mhm, mhm,
I like to share that part of my journey because that's the more vulnerable side and
mhm,
that's the truthful side of it all is that hey, even people who smile and get to a place of success still have those low points
mhm.
that make us human.
Mhm. And I love hearing your journey and your testimony because it seemed like during COVID, it was a terrible time. I went through the darkest period in my life, and you're still trying to regain what you lost, but just being better. And as an artist, I know a lot of artists hit a low point, anxiety, stress. Did we just didn't know what was next. A lot of people, a lot of artists weren't putting out music, they were halted. People put out music. What do you think kind of pulled you out of that depressive state during COVID as an artist?
Well, I went into it not being an artist.
Mhm,
I had actually around that time gotten into more executive consultant
mhm,
work with a workforce development prison reentry agency here in the Birmingham area called the Dannon Project.
mhm,
And I started sort of transitioning into an executive role. And so that was one of those essential services
mhm,
because, poverty and at risk people in our community, they didn't take a break. They
mhm,
still had their needs. So the agency funded by the Department of Labor, we were able to continue to work. And so for me, I was one of the, I'll say the blessed and lucky ones who did have a steady job during the pandemic and it wasn't tied to music. So I was able to keep working and taking care of my family just through my service through that agency and my work. But that was when was making music without the pressure of paying bills, if that makes sense.
mhm. Yes.
Without the
Yes.
pressure of saying, I got a tour, I got to do a wedding, or I have to do a show because that wasn't happening as much. But also, I as an entrepreneur in the music business, I've always had um, a music service called the Music Caterers, where we do weddings. And interesting enough, white people they got back at it a lot quicker than the rest of the world.
Really, I can imagine.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, like they were like, okay, it's like the flu, around July 2020, they were back at the weddings, mask up. Then they started saying, take the mask off. I don't want to see mask in my pictures. The band kept working, they kept paying because honestly, white people in the South are going to party and they figured
Hmm.
I'm not gonna miss my wedding for this COVID.
Right.
And so I didn't broadcast it. I did a social media ban on all in no weddings. Nobody's posting pictures. Just do your work, make your money, and go home.
Hmm.
And to be honest, those weddings kept a lot of our musicians afloat. I wouldn't let them post because I felt it was insensitive, but I was like, get in there, stay
Hmm.
safe, and go home
Hmm.
with your check, right? No. So we were able to, in many ways, because of the clientele, to be honest, because of the clientele, now our African American clientele, they didn't kick back in until a year or two later, really
Right.
2 years.
Hmm.
So most of our contracts were push, push, push. But on the other side of the railroad, we were able to keep working. And so that what of course that wasn't everybody's journey on the
Hmm.
business side of music, but we were able to continue to keep things flowing.
And you know what? You kept it flowing, and it something good came out of all of this, going into the pandemic, and you came out on top as, continuing with your music, new music, and everything. So I want to ask you your journey as a songwriter and now an artist. What has been the most difficult time, with all of this being an artist? What do you think has been the hardest part of your journey now?
um I would say getting past the part where you have to pay your dues, right?
Mm,
And when they say, yeah, you got to pay your dues, that's a bit of exploitation and it's a bit
mhm,
of patience. And I'm one of those people that are just kind of decent at a lot of stuff. Like I can play an instrument, I can sing, I'm kind of handsome. They've been telling you got a nice smile, a couple of muscles, you know. So
yeah.
I actually found it very difficult. I'm thinking, hey, I got friends, they're gonna put me on. Nah, it didn't work that way. So I'm being honest, a lot of the artists I thought, well, I want to be an artist too. Maybe they'll take me on the road. It was total opposite, you know. Uh as a producer, other producers like, no, you so it was just always this competition where I figured because I'm a team player, I got a sports
Hmm.
background. I'm like, hey, let's do it together. I'm coming
Hmm.
to the
Hmm.
table. You get yours, I get mine. They're like, no, you taking everybody's because you do too much. So honestly, I've experienced challenges of people not putting me in position because of intimidation. And I
Mm,
say that with as much humility as possible, not saying, okay, I'm I don't want to sound arrogant or condescending anyway. But I had people say, "Look, man, you do too much. Like you writing, you demoing the song, you're producing the music, you're mixing everything. It's like you got 5 jobs in LA. You do one job. You know, they're like,
mhm,
"Everybody got one job. You doing too many jobs." And I didn't realize that was a problem because I'm like, let's just get it done. I'm from Alabama. That's how we do.
right, exactly,
Uh,
exactly. We do more than one job down here now.
yes, because we have to. But that I found that to be a surprise. I found that to be surprising. Now, the way I responded to it was just I stopped telling people all that I do. So if I meet a producer, I'm just a writer. If I meet a singer, I'm just a songwriter.
Mhm,
So I'm not your competition. I'm your, there have been producers I work with where I'm like, yeah, I'm just a writer because I want to write
mhm,
with you. Not another
mhm,
producer. So the I had to pivot with my strategy of how I promoted myself and built relationships because of this, you know, re, sort of pushback that I experienced earlier in my career.
mhm, mhm. What do you think is the difference of, it's just me. What is the difference between being a songwriter and being an artist? What is the difference between the two that you have, found on your journey? Do you like being the artist more, or do you like being the songwriter more?
I'll say I fell in love with being an artist because,
Hmm.
you know, I love self-expression, but also I love controlling the room. Like
Mm.
I love making people feel a certain way.
Hmm.
So when I was a musical director behind other artists, we'd be doing great shows, but I would also see that they didn't control the crowd. Like you weren't like a
Mm.
good preacher gonna control his audience. You know what I
Hmm. That
mean?
would draw them in.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And so I fell in love with I'm in control here. I can make you cry. I can put hope in your heart. I can make you laugh. As the artist, you have control of
Mm,
that other person's emotions. I love that. And as a writer, I can only do so much for that other artist. I can give
mhm,
them the song, but I can't tell them how to control
mhm,
the mic. Right? I
mm,
can guide them to a great performance, but I can't make you into anybody, right?
mhm,
Um, so I think once I embraced being an artist and got into that space, like yeah, I can write songs for myself and say what I want to say. Um, but I think that was the difference is between saying this is my stage, this is
mhm,
my conversation with the listener.
mhm,
I can control that. I can write you a song. I cannot control how you dress. I can't control what you say outside of the song. That's you.
mhm,
You know what I mean? And so I think it is the element of connectivity with your audience that you get
mm.
as an artist that you don't get as a writer.
And can I just say that you have connected on so many levels with your listeners, with your fans, because I want to jump into your new release. You released a new single, and it's called Till I Get Back to You. How did you come up with that song? What was your inspiration behind it? Because when I listened to it, I was like, okay, has that neo soul flavor, that
Mhm.
R&B intertwined, that southern, feel to it. So tell me about your new single, Till I Get Back to You, and how did you come up with that song?
All right, I'm glad you asked.
Oh, you got the Birdman hands right there.
Glad you asked. Well, very interesting story.
Mm,
Uh, During my last year, I said, let me take a break from, you know, I want something fresh. I want to hear the next thing. So I have been promoting an album for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And I said, let me pull back. And like I said, I worked with a lot of people that have been incarcerated, a lot of mentoring with young people, a lot of guidance. And so when you're hearing people's stories, right, you may think you're helping them, you may think you're giving to them, but you're opening up for them to give to you.
mm,
And so in that exchange on a daily basis, I found myself inspired by different stories, right?
mhm,
And one of my participants, asked me, he said, man, your music really inspires me. Can you do more? So he asked me, I want to hear more. So I was like, okay. And so I talked to my production team and we just sort of started making some music. I was like, send me some stuff, right?
mhm,
That's how it started. I was not intending to make an
mhm,
album.
mhm,
And I just got this concept, songs for the yard,
mm,
songs for the yard. And I was like, what? I didn't even understand what it meant. I just heard
mhm,
the concept songs for the yard, you know, and it was inspired by people who've been incarcerated. And
mm,
so I imagine being someone incarcerated, waiting to get out, being in love. Like I
mhm,
literally saw that and felt that.
mhm,
And that's where the song was born. But it took me on a journey to say, hey, we're all incarcerated in some way.
mm,
We're all in captivity in some way. And we're all seeking the yard. We all want to get the yard. What does that represent? The
mm,
yard is just that taste of freedom, just for a
mm,
little, that reprieve, that getaway from all the burdens of life, that place we go to where you get a taste of freedom, that 24th hour in that, you know what
mhm.
I'm saying, that
Yeah.
23rd, that one block of time where you get
Mm,
to experience freedom. And it took me on a sort of a poetic journey for
mm,
my next album and this lead single, Till I Get Back to You, is just talking about getting back to love
mm.
from that encap that cap,
Mhm, mhm,
and that's different for everybody, but
mhm.
we all experience it. And we talked earlier about COVID. We were all in captivity trying to
Mm.
get back to
The
our
normalcy, yes.
no, getting back to normalcy. So this song, I didn't go into the song with that level of understanding,
Mhm,
but I've grown to have that level of understanding over time. But it was really inspired by the concept of, hey, my man's asked me to make new music, and I got this concept. and let
Mhm.
me just roll with it.
Wow.
Um, so it really is, if you can imagine yourself when you listen to the song, just being trapped in a small cage or four walls, but love is keeping you alive. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And that's it. The album itself, SFTY Songs for the Yard, is a beautiful, beautiful album. And I'm so excited about it coming out later this summer. So this is the lead single.
Mm. I love that. And you know what? I would never would have envisioned that was the concept of, going into this song, but just a different feel to it. I would never would have guessed, because when I heard it, I'm like, till I get back to you, it's like somebody's on a journey and they racing to love. They trying to get back to the person that they love. But wow, I'm just so blown away by this. I would never would have thought that this was, your inspiration behind this song. And you did just drop a little tidbit saying that your new album is coming out this summer. Can you tell us a little bit about the new album and what can we expect from it?
Yes, yes, yes. This, I'm telling you, you are going to be on a journey to safety.
Mm,
SFTY, safety. Because that's what we're
mm,
searching for. We're all looking for it in some way or another. This song addresses emotions that you don't really hear in R&B music. It's a blend of inspiration, gospel, R&B,
mhm,
all wrapped up into a journey from getting past the sentence that has been placed on us all. Say, hey, I'm still me. I'm still at it. I'm never over until I say it's over, right? And finding that free time, thinking about what we
mhm,
all have bottled up, those emotions, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Just songs about the mental health experience, for men especially. Um,
mm,
what is that like to go back in the time machine? I have a song called Time Machine, where you're facing your trauma, you know, and even a song that is really, really deep and introspective, that was inspired by a friend of mine who was considering suicide and shared that with me. What does that outcry sound like in a song? So
mm,
this album, and I've captured all of this in I feel a digestible way that you can sit, groove with it sonically, and not feel heavy, but feel free because
mhm,
you're in the yard, right? And
mm,
that's my platform.
mm.
What I
Yes.
do, yes, is what I do in terms of my calling outside of music is I help people find freedom to say, you know what, maybe I've made these difficult mistakes, but I can get beyond the cage. That's a song. It's saying, how do I get past, my past and into my future when people want to define me by my past?
Mm,
I'm not incarcerated to my mistakes anymore. You know what I mean? What is that experience like? Not only for people who have actually been incarcerated, but for each and every human being, because we're all imperfect. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
So that is
mhm,
the spirit that is in this music, but sonically is beautiful. The experience of it is
mm,
beautiful. And hopefully, here in the month of August, I'll get with you on an actual release date because we have some very, very creative things that we're putting together in terms of the content, the stories that we want to tell. So I'm taking my
mhm,
time doing it
mhm.
right. Then everybody jam with Till I Get Back to You, till we get safety to you. You feel me?
Yes. I mean, like I told you before, Alvin, I added the new single to my playlist. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like one of those feel good musics that, feel good songs that really kind of make you believe in love. And I know some people like me, have been single a while, looking and have been hurt in the
Mhm.
past. But this song is really like a breath of fresh air. And I know you talked about, the release date coming in August, which is like, the greatest month ever because yours truly was born in the month of August.
Oh,
But you did mention, you just mentioned about men and mental health. And I know June is men's mental health awareness month, and of course
mm,
May is mental health awareness. How does your songs cater to men that are having trouble with mental health? And have you ever experienced mental health issues when it comes to things that have happened on your journey in music, and how did you overcome them?
I was talking to a couple of my band members about that element of the project, and I looked at one of my guys. He a little plump, what I'm saying, and I said, well, we got to do, man. I said we got to think of mental health like physical health. I
Mm,
said we can be in shape and out of shape. We're not just sick or well.
mm-hmm,
There are different degrees of wellness. You know what I'm saying? And I said we understand that concept when it comes to physical health because, hey, I'm out of shape, man. I need to get exercise. I
mm-hmm,
said, but why can't we translate that to our minds? That
mm,
concept of wellness being a moving spectrum, right? My health being a moving spectrum. I can be in shape mentally and out of shape mentally, not
mm,
ill or not ill,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And I think
mm-hmm.
black men, we don't ever want to say we ill, even physically. We
Yeah.
we have, well, I ain't sick. I'm
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm,
it's a soft way, to say, hey, look, man, it's okay, number one, to cry. Like just go ahead and let it out and find that safe space to explore these feelings. You know what I'm saying? I got a cool song called Bottled Up. And it's for every macho brother ever. Just like I
mm-hmm.
got so much bottled up. I got a line that says, what I'm saying, I'm trying to be Bruce, trying not to let all my incredible loose. Right.
Mm,
So it's like, I want to be Bruce Banner. I'm trying to be cool.
mm-hmm.
Y'all keep pushing me. Right. But it's a cool upbeat song, but it's talking about something very, very serious, which is, impulse control, temper control. How do we pour out instead of pop off? So it's the journey as it relates to mental health and I'm not a mental health professional by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe in exercise and physical and mental wellness through
Mm-hmm.
meditation, dreaming, and
Yeah.
prayer or anything else that puts you on a path to a healthy mind. And as opposed to just the stigma of I ain't sick or I ain't got this disease.
Mm-hmm.
But my mind is out of shape. I'm not clear. I'm not thinking clearly. I haven't taken time to, relax and different things that we could do that are more digestible for people who see that conversation as taboo.
Mm-hmm. And someone that has dealt with mental health issues with depression and anxiety myself, I feel it's always important to talk about this. And you see a lot of artists now, they're opening the door and talking about mental health of what they have gone through in the industry, in their lives. You see it with Megan Thee Stallion, you've seen it with so many other artists, and I really like the message that artists and songwriters are sending. Like, this is what's going on, even more with men. You seeing more rappers do it, being open. You seeing more singers, more performers, period. And I think it's always a good thing, to even express yourself and to really have, a healthy mind and a healthy body in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta ask you a question, Alvin. We're talking about music month, Black Music Month.
Mhm,
So you as an artist, I want to know, when you go into the studio,
mhm, mhm.
how do you get in the zone of, like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna put down this track, I'm gonna write. How do you get in the zone to write these, Grammy nominated, songs, and you being a songwriter? How do you get in the zone?
All right. So you got the early Alvin, and the
Mm-hmm,
zone was hard to find because I
mm-hmm,
was I was like, here's a track, write a
mm-hmm,
song. And I'm like, but I need information. Who am I writing for? What artist? Like it was difficult to write and get in a space when I didn't know who I was writing for,
mm-hmm,
or what that artist that I'm thinking may hear this song and want it, what's their marketing strategy? So that was always created a writer's block for me when I
mm-hmm,
was trying to write songs to pitch, right?
mm-hmm,
But over time, I grew, got a couple of credentials, and I was able to get in the room, say, hey, talk to me a little bit. And that's when it opened up for me. Because if I can talk to you, I can write a song about it. Like all I need is a conversation, and it's game over. You know what I'm saying? It's game. Oh yeah, if I get in your head and I get you talking, it's game over.
That's it right there.
That's it. I got you. Turn it on. Let's go. And so for myself, when it's just me, once, if I hear the music, I'm in a space now that song is gonna come to me. Like I'm not gonna force a record anymore. Because I'm at that place as a writer and in my career where I want to receive the song. Like what is the music saying to me? What is the moment saying to me? And I listen and I say, oh, let me go turn the mic on and or I'll learn the song before I even get in the studio. I'll just get in the car, do it in my notes. And then by the time I'm in the studio, I've lived with the song in my head. So I do that a lot often now. So I will say just through experience and having done it, I allow myself to come in here and do it when I'm ready. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. You said something. I allow myself to just come in here and get it done when I'm ready. You don't have anybody telling you when to do it. It's on your time. And that's really, I feel like that's how you really get in the zone, when you're just by yourself and you have nobody around you, no influences, and you can just be yourself when you get ready.
Yep. And I had to earn that. I'm telling you, like that was, I've been at it a while, and I used to be on other people's time. Now they don't mind.
I used to be on other people's time, but now they are on my time.
Yes.
See, that's how the Grammy nominated singer songwriter. See, I feel you on that. Go ahead and tell that. You got to say that now.
I used to have to run after y'all, but I'm just saying, like, I will get to it. I promise you. If I say I'm gonna get to it, I'm gonna get to it. But but I earned that, and I'm just putting it out there like that. I had to earn that right to say I'll get back to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that wasn't always my journey. I had to move when other people said move. You want that opportunity, and you still might not get it. That's the part we talked about earlier: paying your dues, being patient, get to a place where you've proven yourself for somebody to say, hey, let me know when you're available and we'll move other things around. And I always accept that place in my life and career with great humility and reflection, because I know that I go hard when I go, you know what I'm saying? But I also know I need my own space. I'm not gonna let you drop in and change my life and my schedule because of your urgency. You know what I mean? I used to do that, but I don't have to do it anymore. And I wouldn't advise people getting started to take that approach.
What advice would you give someone that is, saying, hey, you know what? I'm ready. I think this is my time, my moment to jump into the music industry, even if they're artists or even want to strive to be a songwriter. What advice would you give them?
I'll just stick with the theme of patience and paying your dues. And paying your dues is not, hey, be exploited. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying be an humble servant, right? Serve the room, be the solution. And that's my advice, is don't come into this industry or this business expecting your talent to garner you any type of favoritism. Like nobody owes you anything because you're talented. Because I say talent is like oxygen. Everybody got access to it, right? It's in some shape or form. It's like water is everywhere. When you get in the room, you at the back of the room. I tell everybody, you might have stood out in the line outside the club all night long, but when you get in, you can't even get to the bar. That's the music business. That's the music business. You stood around the corner, but by the time you get in, you're like, damn, I can't even get a drink.
That's a good analogy to use.
I'm telling you, it looked like all you want to do is just get in. I got to get in.
Mhm.
just to get in and realize it's super crowded.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the best way to describe this experience. So outside looking in, you think you want to be in, but when you get in, how do you get to the bar?
Mm.
Patience, strategy, humility will get you closer to the drink to where you can finally be close enough to say, okay, now this is paying off for me. I'm not just caught in the shuffle of it all. And that's
Mhm.
the disappointing part for a lot of people aspiring to be in this business is by the time you get in, you're like, oh my God, I did all this to find out I got to do so much more. I'm still
Mhm.
nobody
Mhm.
amongst the everybody's. And
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
where a lot of artists lose themselves. That's when it starts to hit. When you say
Mhm.
artists talking about their mental health, that's where I believe it really starts to crush.
Mhm.
Is when you get in it and you realize, whoa, what did I sign up for?
Mhm. Right, exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. How do you, as an artist, someone that has been in this industry a long time, how do you stay grounded?
Well, it goes back to my roots. It goes back
Mm.
to my roots. I never left my roots. I never pulled my roots up and say I don't want to be grounded in God or I don't need, I'm R&B and I'm not gospel.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like, I am Alvin Garrett. I am who my dad told me to go to God to find out I am. And I'm a man of integrity. I believe in being a gentleman, a
Mhm.
gentle man, although I will pop off. I work on it.
Although I will pop off too, but I'm working on it.
I'm
God is working on me. He's
working
working
on
on
it.
me. He,
Yeah, but and I genuinely care about people and I genuinely have love and joy in my heart. And love and joy is something you have to fight to hold on to, especially in the
mm,
year. And so I've stayed grounded because I don't want to ever be what I call a toxicity barrel where everybody is dumped their toxicity on me or I'm carrying resentment or I'm carrying unforgiveness to where my
mm,
joy is gone. You know what I'm saying? I'm setting myself on fire so you can choke on the smoke. I don't
mm,
do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna
mhm,
let that go. I'm gonna let all of that go if I can every day to dump it all off so that I can live free and I can smile and have hope. And so that's how I stay grounded is because and I've been hurt just as much as the next person, but I don't
mhm,
like staying hurt. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
I fight for my joy. I'm like, this I'm gonna smile. I'm gonna have low blood pressure because that's what I want and
mhm,
I fight and I can't go hit nobody like I used to when I played linebacker, but I'm gonna fight back against these challenges with a smile. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
I still got the same tenacity and the same linebacker get after his spirit, but that's so that my daughters can grow up with laughter, grow
mhm,
up with a great imagination, singing jingles. I wanted that for my children to see and hear music all around them where I got to sing. I got to be happy. I can't have the poopy face on me all day.
mhm,
So what keeps me grounded is why am I doing this? Why? Like what's the why of it all? And all those things that I just mentioned pull me back whenever I start to drift.
I love that. What keeps you grounded is your why. And now, as we get closer into deeper into this in this interview, I keep saying we are celebrating Black Music Month, and I want to ask you, as an artist, as a songwriter, what does celebrating Black Music Month mean to you as an artist?
Well, I feel that I'm a part of legacy. Like you have to carry that torch, and I care a lot about that type of thing. And so when I started really finding my lane and finding my purpose in addition to my talent, a lot of
Mm.
people start saying, "Man, you remind me of Sam Cooke and Al Green." And
Mm-hmm.
those were the two artists that a lot of people compared me to when they started hearing my music. I didn't hear it at first. Um, but then I started looking at those artists and well, why do people see and hear them in me? They're both tied to the church. That if you look at their stories and who they are and their sound and how they make
Mm-hmm.
people feel, I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I'm carrying the torch of iconic Black male singers with the spirit of God in their music that makes you feel love eternally. And I felt like I gotta carry that torch. Like I gotta be my generation Sam Cooke and Al Green. You know what I'm saying? I felt that's a good burden to say I'm I'm that. And so I embrace that. So in Black Music Month, just understanding that we are torchbearers for music that has been passed along, for spirit that has been passed along generation after generation. And it's important that we don't cut off that connection to the past. And I see that a lot with our younger generation. You know, even in weddings, I don't want a band. I want a DJ. Well, for white weddings, oh, I want a band. I don't want no DJ. They love all Black music, but then you don't get the same thing from your Black brides and grooms, which is discouraging in a sense, because why don't you love the music your ancestors made? But they right. And because I've done so many weddings in my career, that has been a sobering reality to say the younger and younger our brides and grooms get, the less and less of our music they want to hear. The more they don't get tired of Motown. They don't get tired of Etta James. So what does that say when someone else that didn't create your music appreciates it more than you? So for me, Black Music Month is like, I don't need my neighbors loving the music I wrote and my forefathers wrote more than my children appreciate. So that is a challenge. It's real. uh, and I feel that it's important to have, you know, Black Music Month and other opportunities to highlight how important Black music is to all American culture.
And it actually is so important because reading up on Black Music Month when President Jimmy Carter really ordained to say that June is highlighted as African American Music Month, and that was in 1979. And you think, why did they wait so many years to say, hey, you got Black History Month, now you have African American Music Month or Black Music Month? I want to know, why did they wait so long? And what you're saying about the different genres of, wedding singers, and just really thinking about it. I MC and host myself, so when I do wedding receptions, I do not see bands. I see more of a DJ. Of course, you have older people, but they don't play. The DJ won't play any old school songs that maybe the older ones want to hear. It's maybe about one or two line dancing songs you can get the older people up, but it's not the bands. It's not Etta James. It's not that. And you do see it is a difference that, white people will hire bands before they hire a DJ. And us, Black people, we're going to hire a DJ before we hire a band.
And I'm telling you, that is and most people don't go to other people's weddings. So they don't know that, but because I played all kind of weddings with so many different cultures, I've seen it, because that was my core business that I did after college that kind of gave me the space I needed to work on my writing. So I played those weddings. It's really good business, certainly in the South. They gonna have them weddings. They gonna party, right?
Oh yeah,
COVID and all. We party.
And we'll party all night long.
And absolutely. And talking about musicians, every time I've ever booked a wedding, the first question the musician gonna ask is a white wedding or a Black one. 100% of the time they gonna ask, is this white wedding or a Black wedding? You say white one, they be like, okay, cool. Think about it. As a Black musician, you're saying, oh, if it's a white wedding, this gonna be easy. Black wedding, oh Lord, we got to play the leg slide all night or the wobble. You just said they feel that, oh, here we go. Can you play this? You got a limited selection that everybody gonna love. Anything goes at a white wedding. You can play Prince, you can play you can play a jam, just music, and scream for 10-15 minutes, and they It's just music.
Yes.
So, as a musician, you like, okay, I want my audience to just appreciate the sound of music, not force me to just do this one song and then I'm gonna sit down on you. And that is a challenge. I think that that is a challenge to our own culture to say, yeah, we can make this music, but we need to appreciate it as well.
That is so true. That is so true. I want to ask you about the different genres of Black music. You know, this year we celebrate 50 years in hip hop. And I want to know, I don't think I asked you, but what are some of your hip hop influences or music influences in general in the hip hop genre?
Well, I'll say I'm a West Coast hip hop baby.
West Side.
Listen, listen, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, all things West Coast because they were more musical. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
They sampled, at that time, back in the 90s, late 90s, they were sampling a lot of the funkadelic P-Funk. So I grew up listening to that funk music and
mhm,
heard the bass lines.
mhm,
So it was you saw more sung melodies, like they were very melodic in the way, you know what I mean? They were doing the songs on the West Coast as opposed to a lot of the other styles that were out back then. So I sort of fell in love with more of the West Coast based
mhm.
hip hop music just because of the musicality of it through the sampling of all of the funk music.
Mhm.
Hmm.
You know what? To be honest, I think I am more of a West Coast hip hop person myself. I never really, I like, don't get me wrong, I like NYC, hip hop,
Hmm.
but the South hip hop, of course. But it's something about that West Coast, that Compton feel of,
Yeah.
like you said, Snoop Dogg or NWA. It's just something about that West Coast, that hip hop that just kind of, is like really, really different. And I want to ask you, with your favorite genre of music and you being an artist, what is your favorite genre that you listen to that nobody knows, none of your fans know, anybody knows that you listen to?
Mm. I listen, I love me some classic traditional jazz. Like
Mm.
nothing when it's time to study and it's time to
Mhm.
write, like not just music, but trying to be
Mhm.
an intellectual person,
Mhm.
I turn on me some Coltrane, some Miles Davis. I
Ooh.
like to go back,
Mhm.
and hear me some good old fashioned traditional jazz music. That's that got me through college. That's my
Mhm.
getaway music.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Good piano, good trumpet.
Mhm.
All of that music is I it just takes me to that space. Turn my lights down, kick back.
Mhm. Sit back, have you a nice, cup of, some brown, of course, and a cigar, and just kind of kick back and relax, and you be in your zone, listening to some good
Yes.
jazz. And it's funny you say that. My grandpa, he's 97 years old. He
Mhm.
loves music. He listens to music all day, every day. And I guess, for an older person,
Mhm.
that's what they love. He loves the jazz. He's a big my grandfather used to play trumpet, so he's always listening to that classical jazz, swing music, so many
Mhm.
different genres of music. But even he says, R&B is his favorite, but jazz is, number one on his list. So
Mhm.
that is interesting. I thought you would have said R&B is my favorite genre, but I like how you said is, jazz. That is very different.
Yeah, yeah, and I grew up more listening to, contemporary and
Mhm,
classical jazz, traditional jazz because
mhm,
that was, kind of the non-gospel music that my dad
mhm,
parents would
mhm,
play. They would play if it wasn't gospel, for the most part, they would play instrumental jazz.
mhm,
And then my uncle, turned me on. He was a funk drummer in bands and
mhm,
stuff. He kind of turned me on to a lot of the jazz music. And so when I was starting to curate my own taste and interest, I did sort of fall in love with the jazz music.
Mm,
Um, and so that, yeah, as a bass player, you're listening to the groove of the bass and all
mm-hmm.
songs, and so that's where most of my musical identity as a young musician came through the connection of bass in the music.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So, Alvin, where do you see music as a whole, especially like in your genre of R&B? Where do you see that going in the next couple of years?
Well, I see it make taking a turn,
Mm-hmm.
back to a more analog feel. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And when I say analog, more real voices, less digitized songs, where it's more natural, more raw. Because you hear enough of the auto tune and the process,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
it feels less human. And I think that, that's cool. I love it. I used to do
Mm-hmm.
it. But now it's like I want you to hear my vocal fingerprint, like my actual tone. And I think people are in some ways getting exhausted with hearing music that doesn't have depth, which is why
Mm-hmm.
you're starting to see people lean towards meaningful R&B, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just the cycle of time. It just takes a minute for it
Mm-hmm.
to come back around to
Mm-hmm.
from just being super trendy to more introspective and intimate and heartfelt.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that music is going back there because that's what people want. You know what I mean? And I hope that it continues in that direction. Not that I don't appreciate all forms of R&B, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a place in everybody's heart for all forms of music. But for me, as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes around to, like, I need that good old fashioned feel good R&B, I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be waiting to catch that wave because that's who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yes, I feel like it's heading back in that direction.
Mm. I love that. And I do hope that R&B does kind of take a turn and go back to what it used to be. So many R&B greats. I don't think I asked you this. Who is your favorite R&B singer or artist? Whether it's new
Mm.
school or old school, who are you feeling or who do you always listen to?
Well, currently, I don't listen to as much as I used of
Mm-hmm.
other artists as I used to, because I try to keep
Mm-hmm.
my own voice in my head. I'm just being
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but about like I love the contemporary artist Joe, which
Mm-hmm.
I had the pleasure of writing some hit records for him. But I am a real fan, so I was like fan excited, like, oh my god, Joe's singing my songs. I'm like, "Ah!" Losing it type of because it's like I'm like, oh my god, if I can write a song for Joe. So that was it in terms of my career, like one of those like ooh kind of
Mm-hmm.
moments. Joe is like to me one of the most amazing R&B vocalists, of the modern age. And then of course, like I mentioned, Al Green, Sam Cooke,
Mm-hmm.
just listening to those voices,
Mhm, mhm.
not just the song, but their voices. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just something about, you know, those three. If I had to pick my top
Mhm,
three, it would be, Sam Cooke, Al Green,
mhm,
and Joe as a contemporary R&B singer.
mm. I love that. I love that. I'm a fan of, the old school, especially Al Green. One of my favorite songs is Let's Stay Together. That
Mm,
I think that right there is just, I mean, come on, that's just a classic. You can't go wrong with
okay.
that. Alvin, as we getting closer to closing this interview, we're gonna play a little game.
Oh, I
And
like
I'm not a teacher, but in honor of Black Music Month, I got to give
that.
you a little quiz. I got to test
Okay,
your
okay,
knowledge.
okay.
Nothing too hard, but of course, we're celebrating 50 years in hip hop, Black Music Month. So, are you ready for this challenge?
I'm ready. Let's do it. Hit me
All
with it.
right. And we got 5 questions. 5 questions. Now, I'm going to test you with this. In what city was Aretha Franklin born in? Chicago, Detroit, Memphis, or New Orleans?
Detroit.
Is that your final answer?
I know it wasn't Memphis, and well, I don't know. I want to say Detroit or Chicago. I don't know. It's one. Detroit's my first choice. Chicago's my second choice.
All right, your final answer. Your
Okay.
final answer.
Yeah.
It's neither. She was born in Memphis, Tennessee. You know what? I thought that she was born in Detroit, but she was actually born in Memphis. Okay, you got 4 questions left. All right. Now you should get this one.
Edit that out.
All right, you ready?
Yes, I think I'm ready.
Female artist is the queen of jazz? Ma Rainey, Mahalia Jackson, Nancy Wilson, or Ella Fitzgerald?
I feel like I'm gonna lose again. I want to say Ella Fitzgerald.
Is that your final answer?
I got a 25% chance of getting it right. Go for it.
Okay. You are right. It is Ella Fitzgerald. She is known as the queen of jazz.
If you'd have said Ma Rainey, I was just running up here. I know who that is.
Oh my God. All right. We got 3 more.
All right.
Who is credited for the creation of hip hop music? Is it A, Kool and the Gang, B, Sugar Hill Gang, C, DJ Kool Herc, or D, Grandmaster Flash?
I'm not confident in my answer, but I know it ain't cool. I don't think it's Kool in the Gang. I know they didn't do that. They were sampling stuff. I'm gonna go with Sugar Hill Gang.
All right, is that your final answer?
I got 25% chance. That's better than most.
All right, the correct answer is C, DJ Kool Herc. He is credited for the creation of hip hop music back in 1973. But it's all right. It's okay.
I'm learning though. That's why
you learning. All right, we got 2 more questions. All right. Who is the only artist to chart 7 consecutive #1 Billboard Hot 100 hits?
Okay.
Is it A, Michael Jackson, B, Diana Ross, C, Whitney Houston, or D, James Brown?
7.
Who is the only artist to chart 7 consecutive #1 Billboard Hot 100 hits? Is it A, Michael Jackson, B, Diana Ross, C, Whitney Houston, or D, James Brown?
I will feel. I think I know it's between Whitney and Mike. I can't not say Mike because I would feel really bad if I was wrong and I didn't say Mike.
So is Michael Jackson your final answer?
Yeah.
All right. That is wrong. It is Whitney Houston. The voice had it. She has 7 consecutive, and she actually is the only artist to date that has had that.
And you didn't even say black artist. You said artist.
I said artist. I should. If I would have put the black artist in there, you still would have said Michael Jackson.
I would not have done that. I would have went Whitney.
All right. Last question.
Am I one? I'm 1 for 4 right now.
Yes, you 1 for 4. Maybe you'll get this one. Maybe I don't know because I didn't even get it. But which city?
I'm going to Google this time.
Which city is the birthplace of hip hop? A, Brooklyn, New York, B, Compton, C, the Bronx, or D, Atlanta?
It ain't Atlanta, and it ain't Compton.
Mm.
But you got me on this Bronx, and what was the other one? Bronx.
Brooklyn or the Bronx?
One second.
Now you can't listen. You cannot cheat on this music month.
Lord.
Here's a hip hop now. This is a hip hop question.
Listen, all my new fans out here, do not judge me for getting an F on this test. I already got an F. I'm gonna try to get less of an F and just say the Bronx.
That's your final answer.
Why you set me up like that? You keep asking me, is it my fan?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. You are right. It is the Bronx. That is the city of the birthplace of hip hop. You got 2 out of 5.
It ain't as bad enough as I thought it was gonna be.
Listen, hey, I tried to, find questions that, I thought you would have known. Some I didn't know, but it's all good. But in the celebration of Black Music Month and of course 50 years of hip hop, I want to thank you, Alvin, for playing this game. You got 2 out of 5, which isn't bad. But we're gonna let that slide because you did an awesome.
I'm glad you didn't do this at the beginning of the interview. Nobody would have got to know me, man.
You know what? See, that's why I saved all the fun stuff for last. See, we had to get to know you first and know your journey. But then at the end, we had to play a little trivia game. Had to play a little trivia game, but you know what, Alvin? It has been a pleasure to interview you. Alvin, please drop all of your social media handles so we can follow you. We can keep up what's going on. And also, please let us know if you have any shows coming up in Birmingham, especially in June and the summer that we can find you at.
Yes. So it's the Alvin Garrett. Just put a THE in front of Alvin Garrett for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all those social media sites. Is the Alvin Garrett. That's TheAlvinGarrett. Go to my website, alvingarrett.com. And I am moving around. We just, as of today, we just found out we're number 29 on the R&B Billboard charts. The song is blazing, is moving up, and we believe that we got us a number 1 hit in the making.
Yes.
So, so continue to tell everybody, stream the song. Please go out and support it, groove with it, and be on the lookout for more shows and promotion as we continue to build momentum.
Yes, there you have it, folks. Make sure you go support our Black brother, Mr. Alvin Garrett. Follow him on social media, all social media platforms, and make sure you stream this new song because I'm telling you, it's amazing. I love R&B. I love neo soul. So make sure you go stream his new song, his new single. Look him up. Don't be stalking the brother now, but just stream his music now.
Stream all of it. Stream.
Stream his music, Alvin. It's such a pleasure to interview you. And you know what? You family now, so you got to come back on the Sip and Sit.
Absolutely. And we're gonna let you know as soon as we finalize that release date. We'll come back and maybe do a little sit and sip listening party.
I love that.
Listen.
I think if we do that, you probably will be the first artist that has ever done this on this platform.
I don't let nobody else take my idea.
I'm not. You got to come back, so we can pop the cherry of the music review now. Come on. Like a listening party, we can have, some brown. I'm a brown girl. So
I do brown.
See, we here. See, we have some brown. We can sit on the platform and we can listen to the whole album. It will be a Alvin Garrett party.
Yeah.
We're going to partake in some brown with the Alvin Garrett. How about that?
Let's do it. It's a deal. It's a deal.
So thank you again, Alvin. Make sure y'all follow him. And make sure, please, like, subscribe. This video right here is right there at the bottom. You'll see it, the Sip and Sit. Like us on Instagram. You can like us on Facebook, coming soon. But make sure you subscribe and like this video on YouTube, and be on the lookout. This will be posted on Apple Music as well as Spotify. Everything is in the bio on my Instagram page, so make sure you follow the Sip and Sit podcast on Instagram, and of course follow me on Instagram as well. Everything is in the bio. So again, Alvin, we thank you so much for coming on the Sip and Sit. Until next time, y'all, I'll see you in the next video. See ya.